But this is honestly, it's one of my favorite places in Canada. So this is Lake Moraine, and these two little people here. My wife is here, if you could see my pointer, and my one son at the time, Rohin, is here. I climbed up on some rocks, and this is where my professional journey started in Alberta. I practiced for a year as a radiologist in Calgary, and this was kind of part of my little training and work tour before I settled in Toronto in the GTA in 2017. Amazing memories, and a lot learned at every step of the journey. So as I have had the chance to do a few talks earlier this year, a lot of people have been kind of asking me, like, well, how do you think about spending? And I know Paul and Jane were talking a little bit about this, so I'm not going to go too deep into this. But when we look at how Canadians spend, and these numbers are fluctuating because, you know, housing continues to be expensive. Now food is probably more expensive than it was, but these are kind of the big four categories. And when you look at, you know, how you spend your money, I would really kind of break it down into the big categories. So in 2021, I think the average Ontarian was saying that they were spending about 35 to 36% of their income on housing. And I think that continues to go up. So let's say it's 40%. 18% on food, 15% on transportation, and 27%, 25%, give or take, on other things. So maybe you decide to send your kids to private school. Maybe you prioritize traveling in your life, the clothing that you buy, the insurance that you hold, things like that. So when I look at where I want to be spending my money, I really have to dial it in to the things that matter more to me in life. Because truth is, if I spent equally in all these categories and just poured in money to all these categories, you know, I would be on the verge of financial ruin. Like, it just wouldn't be working out for me. So I live in the GTA, and really by no choice of my own. I know that housing is going to be expensive, and we as a family decided to buy a house. We wanted that stability over our heads, didn't want to rent forever. So it's a decision we made. I know I spend a lot there. Another thing that we have started to prioritize more in our lives now is traveling as a family and spending money on experiences, because I find that allows me to disconnect. It allows me really incredible quality time with my loved ones. And my kids also learn a lot from traveling and seeing new places in the world. And then by choice, I try to put less money towards other things. Like, I, by choice, drive a very basic car. I, by choice, just try not to spend too much money eating out. So I spend in some places, I spend a lot less in other places. And that's something that works for me. And I really encourage everybody to figure out what's most important to you. Spend there, don't spend everywhere. I used to be really hard on some people, especially my sister. My sister loves lattes, you know, so she's a family doctor in Toronto. And I used to be like, well, you know, I'm always out drinking drip coffee. Like, what's wrong with drip coffee? Why are you spending so much time on fancy coffee drinks? But then, you know, after reflecting on her experience and what she shared with me, and even on my own experience, like, you know, a little latte, that little, you know, part of your day, if that gives you a little jump in your step and makes you happy, you should spend on that. But I encourage everybody to think about those big categories that I talked about on the previous slide. But we also should take some time, I think, to understand a little bit about the kind of neuropsychology of spending. So whether it is spending on a purchase, or maybe it's something as simple as picking up your phone and looking at your social media, logging into Instagram and seeing how many people like my last post. When something happens, we can get surges in dopamine, okay, from our baseline level. So the red line on this slide basically represents our baseline level of dopamine. And I've been reading a lot about this over the years. I've been talking to people who are more knowledgeable in this space than me and learning from them. But when you buy something, when you pursue a behavior, for example, even like spending time on your phone, checking social media, you get this hit in dopamine, okay? Like, your dopamine level surges. And what does that do? That makes you feel happy. It gives you a sense of euphoria. But unfortunately, that's fleeting. It's temporary. And then your dopamine levels come down to baseline. How do we rectify that? We seek another dopamine hit. That's human nature. And so we enjoy that subsequent surge of dopamine before it again comes crashing down. When it comes to spending, these are the things that I think about so that I can become a little bit more tolerant and happy at more baseline levels of dopamine, I think, so that I don't have to continually rely on these surges. So one thing I always do, and I encourage my kids to do as well, is wait before buying. You may want something, but instead of rushing out the same day and getting it, just wait, force your body to go through that process a little bit and your mind to go through that. I also encourage people, I'm an objective individual by nature, to kind of break things down once you understand what is your after-tax hourly rate. And when you look at taxes, you look at all other expenses, etc. For a lot of physicians, their after-tax hourly rate may fall under $100. Like that's the truth, unless you're in a very high earning specialty or you're working maybe extra shifts, what have you. But understand what that is, and that can actually guide you in terms of, okay, I want to buy, for example, maybe a new Tesla. Well, I want to buy the Tesla, but how much of my time would I have to give up working in order to make that purchase a reality for me? And then next step is, well, is that really worth it? Is that purchase worth the extra time that I'm going to have to spend? And more importantly, is that purchase going to enhance my experience in life? I encourage everybody to think about this. And it takes me to this book. I know people always ask for books. I love this book so much. I've got it like right here in front of me. It's that good. Like this book by Andrew Hallam, who is the author of Millionaire Teacher, which is the next one I read. So I try to read one book a month. But this book, Balance, is the best personal finance book I have ever read. It talks about personal finance at an introductory to intermediate level, but then it dives into how do you spend on happiness in a way that's going to actually enhance your life. And I encourage everybody to read this book. Like everyone in my extended family who was on the verge of going to university, on the verge of stepping into the real world, I buy a copy of this book for them and I force them to read it. And I follow up with them to make sure that they read it. It's that good. When you're thinking about how you spend your money, also try to put some thought into what are your core values in life. Like I can share my values. My values, apart from, being a family person, are excellence. I really want to put my best foot into whatever I do. I want to have impact. So impact is number 2, impact in, all aspects of my life. I also want to have, more freedom. Part of what I do is I want to, with time, generate more time and geographical freedom for myself. And I want to remain curious. Curiosity is a big part of my package of core values as well.